But I understand what you're saying.
My point to you is, you indicated that this is, as you know, the subject of litigation, and I fully expect that there will be more litigation. We're going to call the item when we get to it, and I have offered amendments which have been distributed and are in the clerk's office, and we're going to table the item until the legal ramifications are worked out by the county attorney. And I'm not going forward with it, even though I think it's an inappropriate order. Doesn't matter what I think. I have to follow the advice of counsel. We're not going forward while there is a judicial order outstanding that says we should not. And we're not going to sit here and do nothing while we are under advice from the county attorney that we have this population situation. And I guess the whole thing will end up wherever the whole thing ends up. And let the judge, let the federal judge decide what's more important, the one person, one vote, or not doing the, you put it, violence to the existing district line. I look at your proposed map, and I still see the community of Massapequa sliced and diced from 10 years ago. I still see us spilling over the town of Oyster Bay line in several different places going into the town of Hempstead. It's not the way it's supposed to be. Supposed to respect town lines as much as possible. But,
and Mr. Schmidt, if that's the case, can you tell me why our map only changes 190 and your map changes 218?
I really wish the county attorney were here.
So do I. I was looking forward to him being here.
I'm sure you were. And I would like to watch that as well. He will be here when the legal ramifications are worked out on the day that there is amendments and a vote.
And Mr. Schmidt, let me just tell you this, and I will sit down, and I thank you for your indulgence, and every one of the legislators as well as the community, I thank you for your indulgence. The attorney is an advisor. You are the client.
That's right.
Legislator Jacobs.
Mr. Brewington.
Oh, I'm sorry. Minority Leader Yaturo.
Thank you. Mr. Brewington, something came to our attention, and I was wondering if you took it into account. Last year, the New York State enacted the Census Adjustment Act of New York, requiring inmates incarcerated in prisons to be relocated to their home residence. That's the Legislative Advisory Task Force on Demographic Research and Reapportionment, that's LAT4, is responsible for obtaining prison population census data from the State Department of Corrections. And I understand that LAT4 staff was provided with prison population data during 2010. We're not sure any of this information was accumulated or counted, and there's a possibility of about 10,000, or so that aren't in this mix. Did you look at it?
We did, and we understand that there's legislation coming from the Brennan Center as well as the NAACP. What we decided to do at this point, in light of the fact that that was a question that the state legislature had dealt with and was dealing with, those numbers were left out. Those numbers, however, do not affect either your plan or our plan to any great degree. We looked at it to that standpoint. Dr. Andy Beveridge from Queens College, his daughter is here, Cindy Beveridge, who assisted us with regards to the statistical information. And by the way, we went and got the best so that we could present the best because we think you are entitled to the best.
Thank you. Well, I understand there's not a restraining order on it, so we should be able to use those numbers until it's decided, but I understand.
Yes, and at this point, I would encourage the county attorney to take a very close look at that. And if you're going to do an amendment, which is, by the way, a surprise to almost everybody in here.
Well, I have a letter that I'm handing to Legislator Schmidt to authorize just then.
Very well.
Appreciate it.
Well, amendments should not be a surprise to anybody if they follow the legislative process. When we have a hearing and we engage in public commentary, as we did last week, we review the public testimony, and many times legislation is amended prior to a vote to reflect what has been brought to our attention in the public testimony. Sometimes on legislation that is affecting an industry representative will get up and educate us on things we were not aware of, and a local law will be amended before it is voted upon. The same happened here.
Well, Mr. Schmidt-
After we sift through the Democrat show, and we had last week, and I'm going to make the Democrat email asking people to come here and come angry at last week's meeting. When we look at the facts of what some people were talking about, we have prepared amendments, much of which addresses what you brought to our attention this morning. But when we get to that item, I will call it and explain the amendments and table it.
With all due respect, sir, I do not accept what you say, and you may say that that's my prerogative, and it is. But you cannot tell me that after hearing things on Monday, you allowed those lines to be printed in the paper on Wednesday, and you intended to do it all along. That doesn't make sense. What you had printed in the newspaper on Wednesday is what you intended to do all along, and there was no reason to print these lines in 2-point pitch in the Newsday on Wednesday if you intended to change it and spend all the taxpayer money buying 25 pages of gobbledygook. It makes no sense.
We are following the process that the charter lays out. We are following what the legal notices require the clerk to do in the official newspaper of the county, which unfortunately is Newsday. And
it's just not, and all due respect to our clerk who does a fine job, Mr. Muller. The fact is that you just said that you're following the process. If you were following the process and you intended to listen to the community, make changes based on the community, and then vote on those changes, you would not have gone through the process of putting all of this in the paper, raising the barometer of Nassau County. What you could have done is taken out one full-page ad and said, we heard what the people said, you can expect a change.
that's not what the charter says, so we're just following the process. So we have to,
Any other questions?
legislative directives, and then we're going to go to the calendar.
Yes.
Number one, as usual, I know my time is up, but I'm not going to stop. I know he was kidding, but I mean, it's fine. Mr. Brewington, I appreciate what you presented, and I appreciate the way you presented it, and I appreciated the clarity with which you presented it to enable us to see it in front of us. The bottom line in my mind is for all of us up here to realize, whether we're a Democrat or Republican, it's amazing that some of us win by big landslides in our districts, which only shows you, if you deliver for the people, it doesn't really matter what party you belong to.
That's right.
It matters. And if you're a caring person, and you're a person that responds to the needs of all your constituents, it doesn't matter Democrat, Republican, because let me tell you, the surprise factor is that on the original map, which was drawn up by Republicans, the Democrats won the majority. And when the Republicans just won the majority, they won it on a map that was drawn up by Democrats. But the biggest difference